The night was dark and gloomy when a young girl named Anna set off on foot through an abandoned forest to get to her house. Illuminated only by moonlight, the forest seemed alive, full of mysterious sounds and shadows that scared her to the core. Suddenly, she felt that something was watching her. A chilling wind blew against her neck, and she heard a whisper behind her. Turning around, she found herself in a shady alley and saw a pair of sparkling eyes sparkling in the gloom. For a moment, she thought it was just an animal, but when she looked closely, she saw that there was a vampire standing in front of her. Terror gripped her, but before she could say anything, the vampire disappeared into the darkness of the forest. Anna jerked and ran as fast as she could, feeling that someone was watching her. Soon she reached her house and locked herself in. Since then, she felt that she was being followed, that the eyes of eternal darkness were watching her. Every night she heard whispers when she was alone in the room, and saw the flickering of glowing eyes in the window. She felt that the vampire now knew about her essence and would follow her to the end of the world, to find his victim. Several weeks had passed since Anna had met the vampire in the forest, and every night her fear only increased. She was constantly aware of his presence, like a cold breath on her neck, and at night her dreams were filled with nightmares, in which she saw sparkling eyes and heard whispers in the dark. Anna began to avoid going outside after sunset, closing the windows and doors of her house, hoping that in this way she would be able to avoid the vampire. She even bought a silver cross, hoping to find protection from evil, and forced herself to believe that it would help her. One day, in the darkness of her room, when she was almost asleep, she heard a quiet, then cold voice. "Anna, you can't run away from me. I'll find you eventually," the voice whispered, making her heart freeze in horror. She jerked in bed, digging into the pillow to rise above the sound. But the room was empty and silent, nothing but a cold whisper in the night. Fear gripped her, but Anna firmly decided that she would not give up. She began to look for ways to protect herself by studying the literature on vampires and curses. She soon learned about secret rituals and amulets that could protect against them. She realized that if she didn't find a way to protect herself, she was doomed to eternal vampire persecution. So began Anna's battle with an ancient evil, creepy and incomprehensible to humans, vampires. In search of ways to protect herself from the vampire, Anna went to various mysterious places that were known only to a few. She met mysterious sorcerers who studied ancient manuscripts and magical talismans that promised to help her in her struggle. Months were spent searching among ancient scrolls and rituals. And finally Anna found an amulet that, as it was said, could protect her from vampires. She found out that the amulet had been lost a long time ago and that its power was incomparable. Anna went in search of this amulet, ready to do anything to save her life. Her journey took her to the ancient ruins carved into the rock, where, according to legend, the amulet was hidden. But to get to him, she had to go through a maze of riddles and traps that awaited every unwise treasure seeker. Anna decided to fight the maze and prove her fortitude. But the dangers lurking in the dark corners were much scarier than she could have imagined. While searching for the amulet, Anna encountered vampire messengers who were guarding their master. Every step, every decision was determined by a high stake, not only her life, but also the fate of all mankind. Her hope of success was almost lost, but she couldn't stop. She needed to reach the amulet and return to save herself and everyone she loved. Anna continued to overcome all obstacles on the way to the amulet. She understood that her fate was closely intertwined with the war against vampires. Through a maze of dangers and mysteries, she was in mortal danger at every step. But she did not stop. She was determined to complete her mission, because not only her life depended on it, but also the fate of all mankind. The last obstacle stood in front of her, an ancient castle, in which, according to legend, the amulet was hidden. To enter the castle, Anna had to pass through a forest overgrown with horror and unknown secrets. It seems that the forest itself was afraid to enter its depths. Terrible and incomprehensible sounds came from the depths, and shadows slid between the trees like ghosts of the past. She approached the gate made of black steel and touched it, causing a sharp screech that echoed in the silence. The gate slowly opened, and Anna entered the castle, which swallowed her up with darkness. The most terrible silence. The castle was dark and silent. Anna's footsteps sounded like thunder, breaking the silence filled with eerie sounds. She moved cautiously forward, feeling the eyes of the ancient stone statues on her and the hope that she would be able to find the amulet and return to her loved ones. But when Anna finally reached the heart of the castle, she discovered that the amulet was not there. Instead, she discovered an ancient scroll that revealed that the amulet had been stolen by vampires and hidden in the heart of their hideout. Anna realized that her struggle was just beginning, and she had to fight the vampire lord himself to return the amulet and save the world from evil. With fear and determination in her heart, she went in search of a vampire hideout to fight the Dark Lord himself and his army. Anna had a long and dangerous journey ahead of her to get to the vampire hideout. She went to a distant land where the shadows were too deep and the night was too dark. The path was dangerous, and Anna knew that every step brought her closer to confrontation with the greatest evil the world had ever seen. After many days of traveling, Anna finally arrived at the place where, according to legend, the vampire hideout was located. It was a gloomy castle surrounded by thick fog and ominous shadows. Anna penetrated through the shadow and fog until she reached the castle gate. The gate slowly opened, as if the castle itself welcomed its new visitor. Anna went inside and was enveloped by the gloomy, cold air of the castle. Ahead of her was a long corridor, faintly illuminated by the ghostly light of candles. Passing through the hall of deserted, silent darkness, Anna found herself in the very heart of the vampire sanctuary. Out of the mist came the members of the Vampire Council, powerful and creepy creatures who stood between her and the amulet. The vampires were ready for battle, their eyes glittered in the darkness. Their bonfires were lit. But Anna didn't let her fear get the better of her. Summoning all her courage, she turned to the vampire lord, the ancient and powerful ruler of this race, and demanded the amulet that had been stolen from her. The vampire lord smiled contemptuously and offered Anna a deal if she could defeat him in battle. The amulet would be hers. He knew that this was the easiest way to get rid of a mortal he didn't like. Anna was ready for battle. It was time to test her fate and decide the fate of all mankind. Darkness filled the castle, the sound of her heart thundering in her ears. She took her strength, her hope, and took her destiny in her hand. Anna understood that her fate and the fate of everyone in the world depended on the outcome of this battle. She looked up, filled with determination, and determination burning in their depths. Great tension filled the air as she approached the vampire lord, ready for a life and death battle. The light of the moonlight penetrated through the glass, illuminating the room with a cold, pale light. The vampire lord rose from his throne, their gazes crossing like lightning in the night. And at that moment, a battle to the death began, a battle for life and light, against darkness and evil. Anna and the vampire lord clashed in a battle that was evidence of the clash of the forces, of light and darkness. She used all her wisdom, skill, and strength to confront her powerful enemy. They fought under the light of the moon, like two opposites fighting for control of the world. The battle lasted forever. Every blow, every flash of swords was an absolute reflection of their terrible will. The Lord was strong and cunning, but Anna was brave and determined. In the end, the forces of light and goodness prevailed, and the vampire lord was defeated. Anna took the amulet and headed for the exit of the shelter. Victory was gained, but the struggle was just beginning. Now Anna had at her disposal an ancient amulet that could change the outcome of the war between light and darkness. She had to use it to overcome the darkness and bring back light and hope to the world. Now she had the power to revive the light in the world, or risk everything by trying to turn the forces of darkness against themselves.